talking about today on Start Entrepreneur Secrets Revealed. We're going to really try to crack the code of what it takes to get an invention to market, to actually have an idea, take that idea, protect the idea, bring it to market, and then make it a commercial success. And today we're going to be joined by Marcia Reese, the inventor of sidewalk chalk and a number of other very cool inventions. So she'll be speaking with us today on this topic, and we're going to really get into it. We're going to try to figure out how to crack the code of what it takes to come up with an idea, put the idea into motion, build an actual prototype, take that idea to market, and actually make it a successful launch. And we are so lucky to have Marcia because she's done this. She's done this over and over again, and she has a lot of experience. So we'll jump right into it in a minute, Marcia. But welcome on, and really happy that you're here and able to share with us your experiences.
Glad to be with you all. Thank you very much for inviting me.
So, Michelle, I know this is a topic near and dear to you. You are running a company called paw.com and one called Meowingtons, sort of cat and dog thing. And you're constantly innovating and designing and inventing new products. I know you have some new ones under wraps, and we won't talk about those, but some of the other products that paw.com has come to market with are unique products. Some of them you have patents and design and utility patents for. For instance, you have the memory foam pup rug, you have the waterproof blanket. You have a lot of innovative products. So I think this is going to be an interesting topic as we learn from Marcia about what it takes to have an idea and take that idea all the way to commercial success. Uh, would love to hear from you, Michelle, on that. Before we go there, though, I just want to remind everyone here that this is a podcast, and if you're listening to it in podcast, you can actually come to the live show every Friday at 2 o'clock Eastern. It's on an app called Clubhouse, and we're the startup club. We're the largest club on Clubhouse, and you can go there and you can actually join us on stage. And if you're in the audience today and you've invented a product and you want to talk about your product or your journey along that path, we'd be happy to have you come on stage. Michelle, what do you think about today's topic?
I mean, I personally love anything that's around product marketing, product improvements, product development. It's something that I've been doing for a very, very long time, from software to now consumer good products. I consider, even though it's for dogs or cats, consumer good products, because the way we design things, we try to think of the whole ecosystem that's affected by the actual product. And one thing I've really learned, when I first started out as a very idealistic young woman, I was always trying to think of, oh my gosh, what is something that's like totally different and totally unique? I'm going to say, Marcia and Colin, that's very, very hard. What I have learned is, start with the problem, start with actual products that are maybe in market, and how do you improve them? How do you make them better? How do you make them so it solves more people's need, desire, or issue? It doesn't always have to be a problem. It could just be things that people actually want, Colin. Because gosh, there's always things that we can do to improve on things. I have always found that as a faster way to get to market. And then Marcia, I would love to hear your idea, and I know this is part of what Colin was hoping for, is ways to have successful launches and actually go to market. That's a huge challenge, I know, for a lot of us. We have this great idea, we do a concept, and we're so happy and excited, and we've spent all this money and we have all these great ideas, and then getting it to market and selling it is a big challenge for a lot of people. And oftentimes, these products or concepts meet the graveyard way before their time. So I'm dying to hear your idea. You've brought to market, Marcia, some very innovative products. Like how did you step through that? I'm sure they weren't all a big success on day one.
No, they certainly weren't, Michelle. I, much like you, find a problem. If I have a problem, then I create a practical solution to that problem in the form of a product. Before I take it to market, I've always done this. For the 50 years I've been creating products. I did some calculations today, and it was 43 years ago that I created Sidewalk Chalk. It just doesn't even seem possible it could be that long ago. But what I do is I focus tested. Back then, back 43 years ago, I made Sidewalk Chalk in my kitchen. I made lots of practice runs until I got the formulation the way we wanted it. And then I took it to what used to be called craft shows, and we would sell out repeatedly. And that told me people liked it. The other thing I did when I was there, I listened and I'd ask questions, and I could learn by watching the pricing structure. If people said, "How much is it?" and I quoted a price and they picked up three or four, I thought, wow, that they don't have any resistance to the price. If I quoted a different price and they put it back down, I knew it was too high. Now that's very primitive and it's very elementary, but it worked every time. And so then once we had done probably 6 months of craft shows, I had a lot of retail cash because I was selling retail, so I could develop my packaging for the brick and mortar market. And back then, we took our chalk to Walmart when they had 66 stores. That's how long ago this was. And one of the thrills of my career was my friendship with Sam Walton. And I had the privilege of, in September of 1989, having lunch with he and his wife in their home. And that is always a high point. But back to your question, I always focus, test everything I do. And sometimes I use a service called PickFu, and I will submit photos and let them judge and vote on PickFu. And it's quite an inexpensive way to do some focus testing.
Yeah, and so Marcia, how did you like taking a step back even before doing this market testing? Like, how would you, what went through your mind to think you could make colored chalk that you could write on sidewalks with? Like, can you give us a little bit more of the backstory? And I know for those who've read the book Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, Marcia is featured in the book, and the book talks about the story a little bit. But what's cool here is you can actually go. We can get a lot more of the we could of the story and really understand how it came about. Like, how did it first come to your mind to do something like that?
Well, I was a young mother and I had a very prissy daughter. She only wore pale pink and she didn't like to get dirty, but I love to have my kids do creative art activities. I think when you can use free-ended art activities, it really expands a child's mind. And of course, we didn't have screen time back then, thank heavens. But she loved to do arts and crafts with me. And the only chalk available then, Colin, was from China, and it was dusty, it was dirty, it broke, it was full of lead. And I just thought, and she loved to play with it, and it would get all over her hands and her clothes, and it wouldn't come off the sidewalk. And she was so upset by it. So I just thought, I got to find a better way. So I went to the library. I had no idea what was in chalk, not a clue. Started researching how you would make a sidewalk chalk and came up with some different ideas that I would take home and experiment with. And when I would get it right, then I moved forward. And taking it a few steps ahead of that, um, once we had a very much homespun cottage business, I linked up with Coors Industry in Golden, Colorado. Now, you know Coors as making beer, I'm sure, but Coors also had a ceramics division, which made ceramics. It's a very similar process to making chalk. And I met a gentleman there named Bob Jones, and I ended up hiring him away from Coors. And he really was the one who helped take us from uh, handmade production into automated production so we could do the big numbers that we had to do. But it all came, Colin, from trying to fill a need as a mom. And we moms are very lucky because we get to watch the entire dynamic of our family and we can see what would make their lives easier, what they're struggling with. And those are the kinds of struggles that I like to create a product around.
Yeah, it's fascinating, the journey there. It's like it's ideas are everywhere. You just have to sometimes be aware of the problems that you're experiencing in life or others are experiencing in life or bottlenecks in an industry. And if you can identify that and see that and apply a solution, you're much better off than if you just come up with an idea and you don't even and there's no problem you're solving. It seems like the problem or challenge that you were solving there was that your daughter you wanted her to be able to play with chalk, but the toxic Chinese chalk, and I know this chalk very well, by the way.
Mhm.
When I was young, I had to write on the chalkboard 100 times. Patience is a virtue, well worth contemplating. I have
How am
no
I
idea why.
surprised?
I have no
How am I
idea. Some
surprised?
penalty. It was a Catholic school, but in any case, it was better than the strap, I guess. But that being said, that's I don't think anyone really has a love affair with chalk, especially that white stuff, whatever. But this idea that it became a craft and an art, it became something. And when my kids grew up, they used your products, and or we did, I guess. And we used it pretty heavily, in the neighborhood, and on the outside, on the driveways, and it's just something that I think most people know the product. But let me ask you a question here. Like, so you come out with this product, you got the Walmart deal, you got distribution. So you hit it right off the bat. You solved the problem. You got distribution. Love that because if you build it, they won't necessarily come. So you took care of that right away. But how did you protect it? How did you defend the concept, or did it just get knocked off by 100 other companies?
Well, I want to first go back a little bit, Colin, because getting that Walmart account was not easy, but it was quite a journey that I think your listeners will enjoy hearing. I met with my buyer, and uh, they didn't ever had never heard of sidewalk chalk, of course, because it didn't exist. So he gave me a 7 store test. We had two products. We had a 4-pack and a 6-pack. And he gave me a 7 store test. He ordered 144 pieces of each product, so 288 for each of 7 stores, with a 30-day guaranteed buyback. Now, in all honesty, we had never sold 288 pieces of chalk to any store. So I'm worried about how are they going to sell this through. So on my way home from the meeting, I hatched this idea. What if I called each of the 7 store managers whose information he had given me, and I volunteered to do a sidewalk chalk art contest in their parking lots? And I called the local media, and all those little towns had a little local newspaper who only did color on the front and back covers. The rest of the newspaper was black and white. Well, here we were, kids outside in the sunshine doing art on the sidewalk. We were on the front cover of all 7 newspapers. And I asked the mayor or the school superintendent or the public librarian, somebody of note worth, to be the judge of the contest. And Walmart agreed to give a first, second, and third prize. And I agreed that everyone that was in the contest would go home with a little 2-pack of chalk. Well, that chalk contest blew that product out of the store. And we had 7 stores to do that at. So we did 2 a day. On the 4th day, I'm doing the final store. And I get a call from my buyer. And he said, Marcia, we've got a problem. And of course, I'm thinking somebody's gotten hurt, somebody swallowed my product. And he said, we are out of inventory everywhere. How soon can you get us restocked? Well, the bottom line to that is we restock those 7 stores 9 times in those 30 days. That is the value and the lesson of doing the extra work. Was it hard doing those sidewalk chalk contests? Yeah, well, kind of, yeah. It took a lot of time and organization, but it was so worth it. So after the 7 stores were done, I called him and I said, Steve, I'm just thrilled with this. I'd like to get a few more stores. And he said, well, let's do a 14 store test. So he gave me 14 more stores where I had to organize and do 14 more chalk contests. And that continued. Then that again, we sold like crazy. And then they gave me a 21 store test. And then he said, Marcia, you better come down to Bentonville and meet with me. So I made my very first trip to Bentonville, Arkansas. It was very different than it is now. And met with him, and he had a green and white striped sprocket fed printout on his desk. And he looked at it and he looked at me, and I'm so sorry. I can't show you visually the product that we sold Walmart because it's so important for your listeners to know it didn't look like a brand new shiny iPhone or Tesla. It was very primitive packaging. So Steve looked at me, he looked back at his numbers, he said, Marcia, I don't understand this. You are the #1 selling item in our toy department, and your packaging and your presentation suck. And that's when I said, Steve, tell me what I should do. And so he took me back in their planogram room and he showed me all kinds of packaging. And we decided that blister packaging would be our best solution. So then we put our product under blisters, and that was right at the time we had figured out how to do molded shapes. So I showed him dinosaur chalk, My Pretty Pony chalk, circus chalk, and he loved it. So we right in his office, his little tiny office, we assorted multiple packs with the new shapes. And again, he allowed me to go into the back door of Walmart and I could see every day what was selling and what wasn't. They were very, very kind to a small um, toy company. At any rate, that is how Walmart happened. And then after the 21 store test and the changing to the blister pack, then they gave us a nationwide distribution, all 66 stores. And the funny backstory to that is, Colin, I had gotten a call from the executive producer of ABC World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, and they had asked if they could come do a story about our chalk company. Well, we were home based. My office, I think, no, we did have our first factory by then. We were out of the home. We were in an old plumbing shop that was close enough to the home that my kids could ride their bikes back and forth. And ABC News came and did a story about our little company. And I had the art department from the high school come do a whole mural where they parked the school buses of Peter Jennings' history through ABC News. Again, going the extra mile, doing the research, and I made 700 cookies shaped like the ABC logo. Oh my goodness, talk about damage work. Anyway, they came, we made it, and I asked her if Peter would talk to my kids' elementary school. That's how that school thing happened, because nobody like Peter Jennings had ever come to Niwot, Colorado. And she said, yes, I think he would. So we had planned a school assembly. And then right before, 2 days before he was to come, she called me and said he was ill, would not be able to come, but Greg Dobbs would come. And Greg was their international reporter. Well, they loved the kids and the cookies and the big art drawing. We ended up having 2 minutes and 20 seconds on World News Tonight. That's a tenth of their news show was about our little tiny company. And they talked about how our product was in Walmart and how we were being test marketed for a McDonald's Happy Meal promotion. And this was back decades ago. There was no cloud. I happened to grab a VHS tape and I did get a recording of our segment. Thank heavens. But nobody saw it. I mean, if you didn't have your TV on ABC News that night at that time, it wasn't possible for you to see it. So I was sad that some people I wanted to see it didn't, but someone that I didn't know saw it, did see it. The next morning, I go into my office and I get a call. And the first words out of this person's mouth were, "Why the F is Walmart getting all this publicity and we're not?" And I said, "Sir, they're buying our product in all of their stores, and I can't get your buyers to return my call." Colin, it was the head of Kmart. And they placed a 4,200 store order, drop shipped to each store over the phone. And then he said, 5 weeks lead time, Missy. Do you think you can do that? I mean, very condescending. But anyway, that's how. Then once we had Kmart, then Target fell, Toys R Us fell. That effort I put into Walmart and ABC News is what really made that company what it was.
Yeah, I think you hit a couple of like key formulas there, or codes that you were breaking, and like what's old again is new again. Like things don't change, right? You could have just did the product, did your test with the stores, and sat back and see what happened. But no, you actually made it happen. You know, you see that a lot with distribution, right, Michelle? Like you get a deal. Like I know Pod just got a deal with Wayfair, deal with Chewy, you got to deal with Bark. Like you got to deal with all these companies, but you can't just do a deal with them and sit back. So maybe Michelle, you can add a little bit more color to working the distribution, working, making the PR happen, doing what it takes to make it successful. If you get a distributor, they won't necessarily just come.
Yeah, I mean, first, I just have to say, Marcia, like your PR skills and just let's just say seizing the opportunity are absolutely amazing. Like it's that's really a case study of like taking an opportunity and making it work for you. And I don't know that most of us are good at really doing that because we're so worried, right? Like we're so in our own head. But I absolutely like you're making me think about things that I need to do. But Colin, to answer your question, yeah, I mean it's almost like show business, right? You're only as good as your last deal. um, you know we have to really stand up and tell people about the good deals that we're doing and not be shy about it. And Marcia, like that's guerrilla marketing at its best. Like no task or no attention to the smallest detail should go unnoticed. I know, like right now in today's world, everybody's looking for, like, to have the Kardashians or some big influencer. But there's something to be said, and you've like showed how that's accurate, and there's many cases of that today. Like just like reaching to people and speaking to people in a way that means something to them goes so far. You don't have to be the number one person on TikTok or paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to influencers. Just talk to the people that are right in front of you in a sincere way. And one thing that Colin says, it's like 100 different moves. 100 different moves. Like just put yourself in their head and don't be too proud about it. Just you had a great product and you did an amazing job of actually showing it. And that's another thing, a lot of us marketing people will say is it's, stop just telling everybody it's a great product or a great idea, but just like show them. You like really showed them. And I think what you did with Peter Jennings and whatnot, that was like a true sincere appreciation, and obviously that was not lost on them.
That's very true, Michelle. I had no clue how that story would end up when they took it to the cutting floor. But we became friends. Greg Dobbs and I stayed in touch all through his career. I would always email he and Sam Walton when any good little things happened to our company, because those were the two pivotal events that did change the whole dynamic of it. And that's another thing that I want to stress. Don't ever forget to say thank you to the people who help you along your journey, because there were a lot of people who helped me, like Sam and Greg and this gentleman, Bob Jones. And I didn't do this all alone. Yes, I started the idea, but we ended up with 72% global market share and 5 factories making chalk 24/7. That didn't just happen because some mom in Niwot, Colorado wanted a better, cleaner product for her daughter. It happened because people helped me. And again, like you said, humble yourself and ask questions and listen and learn. And that's one thing. I've brought over 100 products to market now. Not all of them have been successes by far, but I still listen and learn, because even as seasoned as I am, and at this age in life, and I'm a grandmother of 5, so I'm not a youngster anymore, but I feel 23 inside, so that's good. But I still learn from people to this day, and it feels so good to be able to give back and help people, because I had people who helped me. And I remember when I first went to the Denver Merchandise Mart, which isn't even there anymore. They tore it down, and I felt so sad. I needed to get my first manufacturer's rep, and I had my little colored dog. They look like little dog poop, is what the original ones, because they were squirted out. The chalk was squirted out of pastry tubes originally. And I went into these showrooms with these fancy ladies and their long painted nails. And here I'm just a mom from Niwot. I grew up on an Iowa hog farm, so I'm not a fancy lady. Well, I wasn't then. I'm a little fancier now. But I went into all these showrooms, and they kind of laughed at me like, yeah, this doesn't look like it's going to happen. Well, then I went into the showroom of Barbara Averin, and Barbara sat down with me and she showed me catalog sheets, and she showed me case packs, and she showed me how other companies sold product. And she took my line on. So she was my first rep. And to the day she passed away, I never forgot to say thank you to her either, because she changed our world. And so many people are willing to help if we are willing to ask questions. And Colin had asked me how I protected our product. Our formulation, Colin, to this day is still a trade secret, like the Coca-Cola formulation. It has never been duplicated. Kmart tried for a year to knock it off, and they couldn't. And I know exactly what it is that stops people from figuring it out. And I just chuckle because it's not that challenging, but it's so oblique that you really have to get into the weeds of chalk to even think about it. But to this day, it's never been duplicated. Now, I did sell the company to the world's largest toy company on February 9th, 1990. And they had a royalty arrangement that they had to maintain sales at certain levels to continue to own the manufacturing rights. I sold the hard assets. I licensed the manufacturing rights. And so that's, Colin, how that ended up.
Oh wow, that's so cool. I love the little isms that we get from this show and what you're talking about, how you became friends, and often in our businesses that we've been involved with, we become friends with the distributors, and for even now, like even though I sold the company 10 years ago, we're still friends with a lot of these individuals, and relationships do matter. They do make a difference. They do make a difference. I'm getting text here a lot. Sorry about that, but they do make a big difference. Um, Michelle, like, can you touch upon that? I'm getting hit with a lot of text here.
Yeah, I mean, for me, relationships are key. And, one thing I'm going about right now, specifically for Paul, Marcia, is like I'm trying to connect with my network because I'm trying to get into brick and mortar distributors. So, the best successes I've actually had are, just talking to the people that I know, asking them if they know somebody, if they can help me. Like, just cold reaching out to people is hard.
It
You
is
don't
hard. Mhm.
you don't know who to talk to. You're trying, and it can be so like disheartening.
Well, I
But
also think you don't know who to trust, because
That's a good point.
you're trusting somebody with your baby, and these products become our children because I, you give them your heart and your soul and your brain. And so you do have to also find people that you can trust. And I think that is even more challenging. And with the world so connected these days, we can be talking to people about our products that we've never even met. And I'm a little bit old school here. I still like to see the people that I deal with face to face. I think once you can do a lot online and Zooms and internet and calls like this, but once you meet face to face, it's a whole different level of accountability and trust.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And it is like, I know, especially once the pandemic happened, and even still now, people are reluctant to come into the office or to travel. But for me, I love people in general, and I really do meeting them, like, enjoy meeting them face to face. I feel like it's an investment that's worth it on a personal level as well as a business level. And I think if you approach it that way, you'll find that you do have a lot of allies. And I'm always impressed how much people actually do want to help me, even though they don't even know me.
Yes, and Michelle, anything I can do to help, you just reach out to me after this
Thank you.
call. I still have a lot of good connections. Another thing that for my current product, which is Stay Well Copper, that's been a whole new world of challenges. And I'm going to be walking a trade show in August in Denver. And don't, it's not a product for brick and mortar. I wish it were, but it's not. But I do want to walk the trade show and see what ins and outs I can uncover because there will be people there who will be able to help me with Stay Well. And that's another great place to meet people is to go to trade shows in your industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just about headed to one, and you're affirming that. We were kind of like, oh, should we go or not? And yeah,
Are you
we
guys
are
going
going
to
to go.
events?
And it's difficult, like you said, like you get people in the finance team or people, different various people, like, oh, you're going to spend money that way. But I'm with you. You learn so much, and you make connections, and there's nothing like good connections.
Absolutely, absolutely. And talking about the finance team, that's a whole nother side of entrepreneurism. When I first created Chalk, it was all, we self-funded it, of course. And this was back 43 years ago. No banker took me seriously. When I started getting large purchase orders, I went in to meet with my banker and they looked at me like I was crazy. And they said, this is unproven. We can't. So I ended up pledging all of our personal assets to fund the company.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
and then once you make it, well, then all the bankers want to give you money, which just irritates the heck out of me. They wouldn't help me when I really needed them. But now that I don't need them, oh, I could get any money I want.
Yeah, I love
Because
it.
with brick and mortar, I was dealing with all the giants, and they all wanted to pay 2% net never. I used to
Right.
tell them, your terms, I could have children in less time than you want to pay an
Oh my
invoice.
God. That's great. Net never. Hey, I
2% net
noticed.
never.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. I'm going to use that. Well, I know we have somebody on the stage. Lord, do you have any questions or any experiences that you'd like to share with us, with Marcia, with the audience?
Yes. Actually, it's Kara Coton. That's my legal name. Kara Coton here. Hey Marcia, I see that you have a gel-filled wrist rest, and I also happen to work in the area too. Uh, uh, I assume you understand that the carpal tunnel syndrome problem has been growing rapidly in the States, and over the past 20 years, people have been diagnosed with carpal tunnel syndrome. The numbers went from under 2 million to 23 million just over the past 10 years. I'm also an inventor, and in solving my own problem, the carpal tunnel syndrome, with a computer mouse. I created a new mouse. And since um, hearing your experience of how to overcome the entrepreneur journey and bringing your product to market so successfully, um, I'm wondering if we could book a 1 hour consulting session. I'm happy to pay for your time. Maybe you could help me get my product out there as well. I've been doing this solo for about 7 years, and it's very difficult. We are making sales, and we have a lot of return customers, but we just haven't made it to the national stage yet.
Yes, I'd be happy to help you. Why don't you reach out to me after the call and we'll chat? When I made my wrist rest, it was exactly why you said back in the early days, keyboards were about an inch and a half thick. And if you typed all day, your wrists became very, very sore. So I
Hmm.
created that gel filled wrist rest. And I didn't take it to market myself. I did a worldwide license with Case Logic. Case Logic was one of the big players in that electronics field, and they took it. So that's another avenue. You don't always have to do it yourself if you partner with a really great company, and they were wonderful. And I can still connect you with their president.
So I've gotten. Thank you so much. Uh, my I kind of burned the bridge with Logitech. So in the early days when we were supposedly talking about licensing deals with Logitech, it didn't quite work out. So after that, they've been trying to destroy me, and I went on market without them. I went to market without them. We've been selling independently for a while now, but I wonder maybe an exit, you know, including having them buy me out would be a good option. Because obviously I can't get to the rest of the world just by doing what I'm doing. It'll take centuries.
It will, it will. And that's why with the wrist rest, I did license it because I knew their expertise in that area could get market share so much more quickly than I could. Where are you located?
I live in Los Angeles, a small town called Rancho Cucamonga.
Oh, I
Uh,
know that. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
familiar with that area.
here in the hills.
And
Yeah.
I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona, so we're easy in the same time zone area.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I see I'm on your website. I'm on your website actually. So can I just send you an email? Would that be the best approach?
Absolutely. You can send it to Marcia at staywellcopper.com. Marcia, Marcia, at
Okay.
staywellcopper.com.
Oh, that's also uh on your Clubhouse account as well.
Oh, good, good, good.
So, Marcia, you've had a lot of success. I remember your product again. I remember the wrist thing as well. Just
Thank you for
growing
the
up
mic.
with computers. Lord, thank you very much for that. I wanted to ask you a question because not every one of your products has been a success. And in the book Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, we quoted you on a prior show as talking about a TSA a document portfolio. I guess it was the idea was that you would have a you're going through the TSA and you're able to show your passport or whatever within a portfolio or a document portfolio, and it didn't work out. Can you talk a little bit
Yes.
about some of your failures? Because I think in this show we're trying to crack the code, right? And part of
Yep.
cracking the code is what are some of your failures? So that would be one of them. If you could talk about that, and maybe a couple others.
Sure. I made a product called Quick Check-in, and it was a vinyl portfolio. You opened it up, and on the left side, there was a see-through pocket for your driver's license, your passport, and the right side was one pocket that held your boarding pass. And so you could just flip it open, all your documents were there. And again, true to form, this product idea came up because when I traveled, I would see people fumbling around trying to find all their documents and dropping things and leaving things behind. And I just thought, gosh, if that was all just in one easy flip it open, show it, close it, that would just be wonderful. So I thought it was going to be another home run. I could not get distribution on it. I don't know, and I don't know why. I did run it through focus testing. People in our focus group really liked it. I still use one, believe it or not. I don't use it for travel as much. I have some other newer purposes I use it for, but it never caught a hold. And that was always a surprise to me because it did solve the problem very effectively. There's the need today because we all do it on our phones now. We check in with our phones primarily, so we don't have all that paperwork.
So
Um,
maybe it just wasn't a big enough problem to solve
I
for
think
someone to
that's
go out of their way and pay money for. It just wasn't a big enough problem.
exactly. And I couldn't get distribution in the airport stores, which is where I was trying to get distribution. So I think, again, not everything hits. And I did another product for a company out of Montreal, Canada, and it was a toy item. And they were so excited about it. They were animal shaped cases. They had goofy animal faces on these cases, and they were to hold school supplies. And the company wanted it so badly. And our focus group kept saying, why? This one's got an odd interior configuration because of the shape of the animal head. So, what would you put in this compartment? This compartment is bigger. It wasn't logical inside. It was cute on the outside, and kids liked what it looked like, but it wasn't highly functional. And that was not a successful product. And I fought against them tooth and nail to not make it because they spent a lot of money on those injection molds, but I couldn't convince them not to. So the market always speaks loudest.
Yeah, it's the brutal market. And I know
Yes.
how hard it is to get a deal with all the airports because we just got one for Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat. It's going to be in every airport store, Hudson's and WH Smith in September, October. So I know it's not easy to do. In fact, the first time we applied, they turned us down. And that was about 9, 10 months ago. But the book's getting a lot of acclaim, so they've now said that they are going to carry Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat in all their airport stores. So I know I know it's not easy. Are there any other lessons that you've had a product that's succeeding, it's doing well, but something else went wrong? Like, for instance, you got sued because you violated somebody's patent, or you just couldn't get the financing, or you couldn't, you mentioned you couldn't get the distribution for this one. Are there any other product failures or taking to market failures that you could share with us?
I think, in sad, honest reality, the product I'm doing now, Staywell Copper, has been my biggest challenge of my entire career. It has universal need. It kills germs on our hands. I have not been sick or had a cold since 2016 because I use this product every day on the back of my phone, on my car keys. I don't leave home without it. Now, when I created this product, it was before the pandemic, and I almost died from a very deadly MRSA staph infection in the lowest part of my spine. And when I finally got well, and it was a long, hard process, which involved having final rites twice, 6 surgeries, and having to learn to walk again. So I'm not, when I say I was deadly sick, I was deadly sick. So I created a product that would kill germs without using drugs and chemicals because all the antibiotics they had used on me had ruined my hair, my skin, and my nails, the fast growing cells. Fortunately, they have regenerated, but it was pretty freaky there for a while. So I created this product. I did the research. I knew that copper would kill germs. I have a wonderful relationship with Revere Copper up in upstate New York. They're my supplier. They're the oldest manufacturing company in the US, started by Paul Revere when he was 65 years old, if you can imagine, back in the 1801. And Paul had 14 children. This is another factoid. At any rate, I didn't think this was a product for brick and mortar because it's a product that needs explanation. So I put it on Amazon. Now, I had never dealt with Amazon. I had never bought from Amazon. I had never sold to Amazon. So I blindly and stupidly put my product on Amazon. And within about 3 or 4 months, I was doing about 130,000 a month. So it was selling really well. Then the pandemic hit. And Amazon kicked us off. They delisted us because we said in our listing that we killed 99.97% of germs, which we do. We were halfway through getting our EPA registration. We didn't have it yet, but Amazon didn't care. So it took 8 agencies, and that's how I ended up meeting Norm, which he's been such a wonderful friend and such a great resource. um, 8 agencies to help us get back on Amazon. We did get our brand registry, we got our registered trademark, we got our patents, we got our EPA registration. But to this day, I cannot get the sales back to where they were, and I can't figure out why. I just, but I'm stubborn and I'm not giving up because this product is so effective. We get tremendous reviews from our users. We have great reorder rates. Once people learn about us, they do love it. But oh my God, what a challenge this has been. So I don't want it to be my biggest failure because there's too many people around the world that need it. But boy,
So what
it's
is the
been hard.
yeah, what is the product exactly? Is it can you just describe it?
Yes, you can also see it on my website, staywellcopper.com. We make phone patches that stick on the back of the germiest thing we touch all the time, which is our iPhone. And we make rollers that fit on our car keys. They have a swivel attachment so you can roll them between your hands. When I go to the grocery store, the bank, the gas station, I never touch those buttons because they are covered with germs. They never get cleaned properly. I use my roller like my sixth sanitary finger. And then we have some copper dog tags that also can go around your neck that men seem to like to wear that more than the roller. But so it's a very simple product line. It's not a complicated one, but it's just I can't crack the Amazon code. And when we were selling 130 a month, we were FBM and we were paying nothing for PPC. I can't figure out how we got there and I can't figure out how to get back there again. So if anybody in your audience can help me with Amazon, boy, I can make it worth your
Marsha,
while.
I've been an Amazon seller for over 7 years. And at the peak, we were selling or making about $170,000 a year on Amazon, selling the RPT mouse. And then randomly out of nowhere, we got a whole bunch of competitors marking bad reviews. And all of a
Oh,
sudden, once the rating dropped below 4, it went into a 3.8, the sales stopped. It went from uh, over $10,000 of sales in a month all the way down to 3,000. So, that was very detrimental to my earnings, to my income.
yeah,
And
yes.
I I've called as a seller support on Amazon multiple times, and I even went to CES to see these managers in person to tell them to report the problem, but nothing's changed. They don't have a way to really defer or discourage your competitors from smearing your reputation. And the moment um, I guess they have an AI algorithm behind the Amazon powerhouse. Um, the moment they see there are more ratings, you know, uh, that are under 3 stars, they'll start to discourage the buyer from seeing your product. So when you were making over $100,000 in sales, on Amazon, your impression rate was probably in the millions. I would say 3 or 4 millions per month, and that is very significant. But once the ratings started to suffer, and I assume you're going to have competitors from overseas, from domestic, they buy reviews. That's the worst thing about Amazon. They don't do anything about it, and you can Google today. You can see purchasing Amazon reviews. There are still several sellers out there, and they'll still do this thing, but
Oh,
Amazon will not stop them. And
well, each time we've been delisted, we've lost all our reviews. We had many, many hundred 5-star reviews. They're all gone. I
yeah,
think we maybe have 2 dozen reviews now. And fortunately, we don't have competition. I enforce my intellectual property diligently and I go onto the main e-commerce sites once a month. And if I see anybody in our space that is violating my patent, I'm all over them. So
Amazon.
that we've been able to keep under tabs, but it's just getting Oh, so of
There are two
all,
new platforms, Marsha. There are two new platforms I think you try out. One is TikTok Shop,
Mhm.
very popular. The other one is Temu, Temu.
I
Um, I,
don't want to deal with Temu because they're all Chinese based, but I am just getting things on TikTok now.
yeah, start with TikTok. It's definitely very helpful. And since you are very outspoken, and as long as you can explain your idea well, and your product, I would say if the price is not marketed above $50 because people on TikTok are also very price sensitive. If you're under $50, I don't see any problem you selling, making a big thing again. It's very likely.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I will tell you in complete candor, I have worked with hundreds of companies. No one is as difficult as Amazon. No one has made me want to scream louder than Amazon. They're the most difficult platform. They truly do not have any regard for the sellers.
Any thoughts, Michelle, on that? Because I know this is an area you're in the middle of as well, Michelle.
All right.
Michelle, she must be
Yeah,
off. I don't know if
I'm
you.
here. I'm here. Go ahead. I missed what
No,
you were
it's this
saying.
whole Amazon, like this, the fact that it's Amazon's driving everybody nuts,
Oh,
and
Amazon is, but I was just listening to you intently because we're newer to the game, and like, I'm just going to say a couple things. I know this is not an Amazon session. We should do one again, Colin, with Amazon
100%,
experts
100%.
and questions. Yeah. So one thing, like you said, which is correct, getting on Amazon brand registry is critical, right? Then you have to kick people off your listings if that's what you want to do, which is what we're doing because they were surfing on our listings and we were paying for ads. The second thing is, and Lord, I'm sure you know this, but you can protest reviews. You can get bad reviews dropped. Amazon's changing so much all the time. I'm not pretending like I'm an expert. I'm not, but I can tell you this: we're learning a lot, and I'm seeing our sales go up and up as we learn more. It's like you need a PhD, quite honestly, in
Yes.
Amazon, and there is so much to learn. But we should come back, Marcia, with Norm and you and some of our other friends. Like I would love to do, some Q&A and deep dive into Amazon, but it is a great opportunity in my opinion, and that's not just an opinion, it's according to what I've seen. Thank you.
I think everyone, if you can find the sweet spot on Amazon, there really is nowhere like Amazon. But boy, does it have the pitfalls. And I'm 100% in favor of doing a show with Norm and some of the other Amazon folks because there's no one that deals with Amazon that doesn't have a few scars on their back.
I wanted to make a quick comment with Michelle's mark on the protesting the bad reviews. So you can only protest it if they write something about it. But Amazon makes it where they can just give you a score, like a one-star review without writing anything. And since the seller uh, can't really see the comment or the review, there's no way to report it. So that's that.
Oh,
Yeah, and I also know Michelle, Marcia was talking about takedowns, competitor takedowns, and you just started doing that as well. I think it's important to protect, in the book, start seal as a repeat. We start with the first chapter about, ideas are everywhere. And then the second is ideas to action. And then the third is, the catching a wave. The fourth is building a moat. The fifth is scaling, picking ideas that can scale and learning how to scale your organization. And the mode is important. A lot of entrepreneurs get out there and they don't realize they need to do patents, they need to do trademarks. You don't necessarily need to do them right out of the gate, by the way. If you don't have the funding, that's okay. You can still prove your concept first. But we had a product on paw.com that became a national hit, and we were late to the game. We failed to do the patent on it, and I'm going shopping with my wife at Christmas like 2 years ago, and the like fucking product is right there in Costco in front of me. I'm like, are you kidding
oh,
me? Are
oh,
you kidding me? Like
oh.
we invent the product, and yet we didn't, but we didn't. do the necessary moves to protect it. So it is really important that if you do a product in the United States, that you do file for a patent for that product, especially if it's unique. And by the way, you can do a design patent, which is not as good. But if you can do a utility, it's better. But you can do it within up to a year of launching, of advertising that product. If you can do it before that, you can get global rights
Well, and the
as well.
great thing is, Colin, at my age, I can get a patent issued in 6 months because the patent office, if you have a terminal illness or you're above a certain age, they give you priority to get your patents issued.
I never heard that. I think that's amazing.
Yep.
That's really
Yep. It was
cool.
It's
wonderful.
true. It's true.
That's great for an inventor like you who just won't stop. Okay, that's another. We're closing out now. We have about 2 3 minutes left, but Marcia, like, oh, I mean, come on. When are you going to retire? Like, is there an addiction here? Are you addicted? You know, I do this in the
Yes.
last chapter of the book. I
Yes.
talk about the entrepreneurial addiction, and
Yes.
sometimes it can be bad, sometimes it can be positive, but it just seems like you're addicted to creating and
I
solving problems.
I am. And I live in Scottsdale, Arizona, where everybody out here is old and retired. And people look at me and say, why are you still doing this? Because it lights my fire. When I tell you I feel 23 inside, I have the energy of a 23-year-old. And that's because this stuff lights me up. I wake up hyper challenged, ready to go. And I look at my friend, oh, you want to play pickleball? Do you want to go play tennis? No, I don't. I hate that old boring stuff. But I've told my children and my grandchildren, if I die with a product design in my hand, you know I died happy. I truly know this is what God made me for. I know it's what my calling is. I love it. I hate the e-commerce side of it, but the product design development part of it lights me up like nothing you can even imagine. No one makes me do this. I don't need the money. I've been lucky to sell a couple of products for some pretty good change. I don't do it for that. I do it because I'll tell you one quick story as we're closing out. Many, many years ago, I was in a Toys R Us store in Boulder, Colorado, and I was walking the aisles looking for packaging, colors, trends, just looking to see. And I always look what's in the closeout bin because that tells me what didn't work. And I hear this little girl say, Mommy, Mommy, if you buy me this, it's all I want all day. And I thought, I wonder what that kid wants. And I walked around 2 aisles over, and there she was holding my bucket of sidewalk chalk. And that's why I do this, to hear that little girl say, Mommy, Mommy, it's all I want. And when I have people today call and say, I haven't been sick for 3 years. Thank you. It just lights me up to know something I created changed somebody's life. And I think it's an honor and a privilege to get to do this. The day I stop, it'll be close to, uh, it'll be close to coffin time. I just love it.
You're amazing. You're absolutely amazing. And, you know, you start, scale, exit, repeat over and over again. Like you are doing it. I think it's amazing. Maybe we can connect you with the Procter and Gamble folks. They have a venture fund, or not a venture fund. It's more like a licensing fund. So maybe your product would work well with Procter and Gamble, and they could take it from 0 to 100 in
Wouldn't
very,
that
very
be great?
quickly.
And
Yeah.
I would do that in a heartbeat because the one other thing I have learned is there are people, just like Case Logic took my gel filled wrist rest, they took it to the stratosphere. I couldn't have done that quickly. So
Yeah.
I
Well,
think knowing when to exit is a very key thing.
and they have massive distribution. So if you Google Procter and Gamble Innovation Fund, they have, and by the way, you can look at some past episodes. We profiled them. They actually were a sponsor on Startup Club, and we interviewed a number of people that actually made the book, but also we had them on Clubhouse, and you can just look at the past episodes. But that might be a good option for you to join that competition. Usually,
Yeah.
it runs in you have to apply in October every
If they're
year.
still doing it, but we can get you in contact, Marcia.
Super. Thank you very, very much. And
And
Colin,
Colin, look who joined us, our friend Steve in
Oh my
Seattle.
gosh, Steve. Okay, so we have to extend the
Steve.
show now.
I
Extend the
know,
show. I mean, like,
Steve.
hey,
I was ready.
Steve, how are you doing? I met
So,
Steve at the Empowery show in Las
Oh,
Vegas.
What a
Awesome.
genius. We have a genius on stage. He's going to be a speaker that's coming on our show. I think we're booked in September, October, but the reality is like if you do not get on startup.club and sign up to that email list, you're not going to know that Marsha was coming on and she was amazing. You were just amazing today, Marsha. And then you would not know that Steve's going to come on. Steve, welcome to our humble little show in the humble corner of the world. And you missed a really good show with Marsha about learning about inventions and taking them to market. But any thoughts, Steve, about tips for distribution, especially around Amazon?
No pressure, Steve.
Throwing you in the middle of it there, right?
I know, I know. He may not hear us. Okay.
Well, I want to thank you both for inviting me. Colin, you have been someone I have watched and admired ever since I learned about you through Norm Farrar. And to actually get to spend this hour with you, you were the highlight of my week. And I want to thank you so much for spending this time with me. And I know now our paths will cross many more times.
I think so as well. And by the way, your story and the stories of 50 other people who actually made the book. We interviewed over 200 people. But your story and Joe Foster from Reebok, his story. I do a lot of speeches now, and I'll often quote your story about sidewalk chalk, and it's just phenomenal. We learned a lot today. We're uncovering
Oh,
that code. We're
you know,
breaking that code. Yeah, go ahead.
one other thing I wanted to tell your audience, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, Colin.
No,
It's
go ahead.
very important when you're out meeting with people, and Michelle, this will be good for you as well. Make sure before you spill your beans, you have them sign an NDA. If someone is not willing to sign an NDA, don't talk to them. And that's my parting wisdom.
Awesome. We like that. Well, you've been listening to Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, Serial Entrepreneur Secrets Revealed. Yes, that's the name of the book, the number one best-selling book, but it's also the name of the podcast. And you can go and search on Google or look at any of your podcast networks and or YouTube now. We actually recently went on YouTube, I'd say about 6 months ago, Mimi, and it's blown up. We have over 30,000 followers on YouTube, and we have some videos that are posting over 10,000 views now. It's starting to blow up, but you can listen to the episodes there as well. But nothing's better than coming in person. Come to download this app called Clubhouse, join Startup Club, and join us on stage live and ask questions and let us help fuel your startup journey on Startup Club. Thank you very much. We'll see everyone next Friday, 2 o'clock Eastern.